Hello and welcome. This is CustomF1, the F1 Challenge series where I create my own Formula 1 team. This is an ever-changing world with dynamic changes to teams and drivers. The world is fully simulated, including its own economy. I know, cool right? Today we have the 1995 French Grand Prix. Here is the highlighted comment of the week. Cube Doubled has once again won it with 17 likes, which is the highest we've seen so far. I think he's won it 4 races in a row now, so he's undefeated. On to the news, and there's an interesting dynamic developing near the top. Benetton are struggling because of course they've had reserve drivers filling in, and both McLaren and Ferrari are closing in. Ferrari have been slow burners in the championship thus far, but are they starting to turn things around? Streamline were really happy with their results out in Canada, both drivers finishing, both having excellent races, although Sala did suffer from inconsistency and a tendency to make mistakes. And that might be a sign that he's pushing a bit too hard to keep up with his teammate Zomba-Reith. Schumacher is still patiently waiting for his return. He's just waiting on the sidelines right now. Rumours in the paddock suggested he was set to make his return this weekend, but Benetton were quick to extinguish any chance of that happening. His return is set for the British Grand Prix next week. That's it for the news. Time for qualifying for the French Grand Prix. Enjoy. And here we are in qualifying for the French Grand Prix, riding on board with Mika Sala as we always are. This is his 7th lap in qualifying out of the allotted 12 laps allowed during the session, and right now he's sitting down in 18th place, but now of course this is going to be his fastest lap, so it's going to jump him up the order at least a few positions. Last time out at the Canadian Grand Prix, it was a solid result for both streamlined drivers. I think we finished 10th and 11th, Reith ahead of Salo. It was not troubling the point scorers as such because the big hitters were just driving away from us. No big retirements to speak of really in the previous round. So 10th and 11th was kind of the best we could have hoped for. Best of the rest I'd say. Behind the Jordans and the Saubers, who seem to have a pace advantage on the streamlined car for the majority of the rounds so far this season. But we are still yet to see FORTI make the grid. But, of course, you've seen the thumbnail, that's all about to change, as we've got a few more corners to go on our fastest qualifying lap. We're already up by 6.5 tenths on our previous best lap, so this is really a quick lap. It's going to throw us up the order, surely. If we're already 19th place, what can an extra 7 or 8 tenths do to our time? Across the line, it's a 1:19.6, that's 14th place. But where are we on the starting grid? Here are the qualifying results. Damon Hill claims pole position ahead of David Coulthard. So that's a new looking front row of the grid. We've got Martin Brundle in 3rd place. So 1, 2, 3 are all British drivers. Ayrton Senna, the championship leader now of course, down in 4th place. Almost half a second off his teammate JJ Leto in what could possibly be his final fill-in drive for Michael Schumacher. He qualifies down in 5th. Alesi sets off from 6th place ahead of Barrichello and Panis on the 4th row of the grid, and Hakkinen and Irvine on the 5th. Starting from 11th place is Morbidelli. He's got his teammate Ralf Schumacher alongside him in 12th, and the two Saubers on the following row of the grid, Mahindra and Frentzen. Mika Salo qualifies up in 15th for the lead streamlined car. Verstappen down in 16th with Bernard and Katayama behind. Zomba-Reith and Pierluigi Martini line up on the 10th row of the grid. And the final 10 drivers, we've got Fisichella in 21st, Zanardi in 22nd, Gerhard Berger all the way down in 23rd place with the second Lotus of Mark Blundell alongside him. Vincenzo Sospiri, the FORTI driver, manages to qualify. That's the first time FORTI have qualified for a race in their Formula 1 career. He's 25th and Johnny Herbert in 26th, meaning that both Simtek's eliminated alongside De La Rus of Noda and Ricardo Rossi in the other FORTI 30th and out. Here we are then at the Circuit de Nevers-Magny-Cours, located in France. It's a 4.25 kilometre circuit. We've got quite a few laps today, 72. And look at that, the weather is wet. We've got a very stormy day ahead of us for this Grand Prix, which is surely going to throw up some surprises. The action zones down in turn 5, that's the sharp hairpin at the end of the long straight. Turn 8 which is after the chicane, after the hairpin, after the long straight, and turn 15, which is the final corner. The difficulty of the circuit is moderate, overtaking is moderate, and the speed is moderate. It's a bog standard circuit in terms of Formula 1. Let's have a quick look at the driver strategies for Streamline Engineering. Salo up in 15th is going for a 2-stop strategy. Zomba Reith down in 19th, also going for a 2-stop strategy. Very similar strategies for the Streamline boys. Let's hope it works out. Of course, these strategies could change due to the wet weather in play today. Well, there's only one more thing to do, and that's go racing. The 1995 French Grand Prix is next. And here we are on the grid, 4 lights and 5. The 1995 French Grand Prix is underway, and we get such a bogged down start. Wheels spin all over the place because of the conditions, and we've already lost a handful of positions. We're down to 21st as Eric Bernard slides his Ligier up the inside into turn 1. And the pack kind of concertinas up into this long turn 3, especially on the opening lap of a race. In conditions like these, it's going to be a very, very slow start to this race. And of course, a mammoth 69 laps to go in this Grand Prix. I'll be lucky if we even make it to the end. You know my experience and previous encounters in conditions like these. They don't tend to go too well, but into the hairpin for the first time, turn 5. We go up the inside of a few drivers, including my teammate Zomba Reith. So back up into 18th, make that 19th, almost 18th. Don't think we're going to get ahead of Reith on the exit of the corner, and my Streamline teammate holds on to the position. But we're back into the top 20 at least. We need to see what sort of pace we have in these conditions. I've never been too strong in conditions like these. We just need to take it easy for the first few laps, settle into a rhythm, and see where this race takes us. As the lights went out, Damon Hill got a solid getaway, but was being challenged by David Coulthard into turn 1. The Benetton and the Williams going side by side. Hill being pushed off and losing out on first place to the Benetton of David Coulthard, who takes the lead. Martin Brundle remains in third place, but under pressure from championship leader Ayrton Senna. The Williams currently down in fourth place as they head down towards turn 5 for the first time in this Grand Prix. The Williams of Hill looks back to the inside of David Coulthard to try and retake the race lead, but thinks better of it. We are on lap 5. Interestingly, we have Gerhard Berger behind, the Ferrari, who of course qualified all the way down in I think 23rd place. Terrible qualifying for the Ferrari man. He's on his road to recovery up to 20th, so he's only gained 3 positions in the first 4 and a bit laps. And we're struggling to really make a dent in this race. We gain a lot of time through the first sector and through the hairpin, but for the rest of the lap I'm slowly losing time to the cars around me, including Pierluigi Martini, who is in front. It was my teammate Reith. He has managed to already clear that driver. I think he's gained a few positions. It's lap 5 and this is Ralf Schumacher, but his race is going to come undone here as he stops on track. That could be suspension failure, that could be anything really, but whatever it is, he's out of this race. Berger looks to the inside of the hairpin, braking into turn 5. The Ferrari and the Streamline, both powered by Ferrari of course, but Gerhard Berger comes out on top. Does run a little bit wide, but he's still got the momentum to carry himself into 18th place now. Mikasala down to 19th. Of course, there was just a retirement, so he went up to 18th, down to 19th again. It's lap 7, and Coulthard... Oh no, Coulthard's going to lose the lead here. Ayrton Senna on the inside. Senna's climbed from 4th on the grid. He's overtaken Brundle, he's overtaken his teammate Hill, and now he moves past David Coulthard, and the Rain Master Senna leads the Grand Prix. The Frenchman of Olivier Panis running in a French car, which is Ligier, but they're not going to be running for much longer. It's lap 8, and Panis stops in the gravel trap on the exit of turn 11, 10, not sure. Whatever it is, he's out. This wet weather is certainly catching some drivers out, and no less than Mark Blundell in the Lotus clipping the wall on the right hand side and clattering the barrier, losing his right rear tyre and retiring on the spot. Lap 10 of this Grand Prix then, Senna and Coulthard first and second, Hill, Brundle third and fourth, JJ Leto up to 5th place, McCagnon slipping down to 6th. I don't think that's due to strategy or pit stops, I think that's just on pace. As we're currently looking at Zomba Reith, who's made a good start to this Grand Prix. Started down in 19th, he's currently in 14th place and on the back of this battle for 12th place between the two Saubers. Frentzen and Mahendra going at it. It clearly seems like Mahendra has more pace than Frentzen at this stage in this race. Salo all the way down in 18th at the moment, behind Gerhard Berger. Herbert has done really well this season to actually qualify for the majority of the races, but his race pace and his race results have not been quite there, and this one's going to be no exception. The Larousse, the sole Larousse in the race, is now out of the race. I was doing so well not to make any mistakes, but on the start of lap 14, going into turn 3, just take a bit too much speed, snap the brakes, or catch the brakes shall I say, and slowly but surely reach the end of the gravel trap, and this gravel trap is an absolute pain to get out of. It's taking me quite a while to get back onto the circuits. We've lost valuable time. We're down to 22nd, which is last of the running order. Vincenzo Sospiri in the 40 has managed to go past, and we've lost a good 25, maybe 30 seconds from that. The good news is we're catching the drivers ahead pretty quickly, about 6 seconds behind Sospiri. Martini's been into the pits, only 4 seconds behind him. Bad news is we're about to get blue flags on lap 20 of this Grand Prix. There's a Williams behind, I lose grip and I'm into the wall. And that's it, that's the end of the race. A momentary lapse in concentration sees Mika Salo into the wall heavily. Maybe 150, 160 miles per hour, and that's the French Grand Prix over for the Streamline driver. It's actually a Williams 1-2 right now. I think the Benetton of Coulthard has been into the pit, so Hill runs in second place, but he slows on the exit of turn 5. And that looks to be an engine failure. The Williams Renault, the Renault engine giving up at their home Grand Prix. Well, it's gone terribly for Mika Salo today, but one driver it has not gone terribly for is Vincenzo Sospiri, who has managed to climb into the top 20 now due to all the retirements. The FORTI reliability surprisingly holding up. Maybe that's because they're not running at full power. Maybe that is truly their pace, as they've already been lapped, I think, almost for the second time by the race leader. They're being lapped by the midfield pack now. It's lap 30, so we're not even halfway through this Grand Prix, but they'd just be happy with finishing this race. Surely they're just happy with actually making the grid. It's an achievement in itself. Verstappen rejoining from the pit lane. There's a Minardi coming around the corner. They've collided. A big crash between the Tyrrell and the Minardi there. Both drivers out of this race. That's a very unfortunate incident. Barrichello seems to be slowing down here. Oh, that's engine failure. Engine failure for Barrichello, the Brazilian, out of this race. There's been quite a few retirements. I think he becomes the 8th or 9th retirement of this Grand Prix. It's not drying up out there, but it seems like the rain has subsided a little bit. It's lap 50 out of 69, so we've got about 19 laps or 20 laps to go in this one. Senna still leads, Coulthard, Häkkinen, Brundle, Leto and Alesi now inside the top 6. His teammate Berger has climbed all the way up to 8th place. If you remember, he started down in 23rd, so that's a good recovery ahead of the Sauber of Kai Mahendra. There's a footwork of Morbidelli in the top 10 as well. Zomba Reith, his progress stalled really after his first stint. He's down in 13th place, but Sospiri up to 17th. This has been a dominant performance. I know I use that a lot, but this one truly has been dominant from Senna, who's led from lap 7 onwards in this Grand Prix, and he exits the final corner, crosses the line to win a spectacular, for at least him and his sake, for the championship French Grand Prix. And here are the results. Senna, in the end, with a pretty dominant victory over Martin Brundle and Mika Häkkinen. Both McLarens on the podium together for the first time this season. David Coulthard and JJ Leto, both Benettons into the points as well. And John Alesi picking up a solitary point for 6th place. Eddie Irvine just missing out. Gerhard Berger, he qualified down in 23rd, so finishing 8th as a pretty good result for the Austrian. Morbidelli in the footwork down in 9th place, and Kaya Mahendra, who's been in the points, I believe, for the opening 6 rounds of the season. That streak comes to an end today. Now on to the second half of the results. Katayama, Frentzen, 11th and 12th. Zomba Reith finishing for Streamline, only 1 lap down in 13th. We got a few drivers 2 laps down. Bernard Zanardi and Fisichella, and Vincenzo Sospiri finishing the race 3 laps down, albeit, but in 17th position. There was a fair few retirements, not too many. More than half the grid actually finishing this Grand Prix for a change. Of course, Mika Salo retiring quite early on, down in 22nd place, and Ayrton Senna picking up the fastest lap of the race. And this is what the result means for the Drivers' Championship. Senna is now 4 points ahead of Brundle, who's still in second place. Schumacher, surprisingly, still in third. Hill not scoring today, neither did Mahendra or Berger. And we've now had 17 drivers scoring points. JJ Leto up to 15th place with his 5th place finish here today. Frenton's still not with any points on the board, even though his teammate's up in 5th place in the championship. And of course, Sospiri finishing in 17th means that he's climbed into the top 30. He's currently 28th in the Drivers' Championship. And this is the Constructors' standings. Williams far ahead of Benetton now, who's only 5 points clear of McLaren. And a surprising change to this ever-changing season. FORTI, that's a mistake. They're actually ahead of LaRousse now. So FORTI up to 14th place in the Constructors, shall I say, the Constructors' Championship. Now, what does this result mean for the morale of the drivers in Streamline? Well, Mika Salos has taken a pretty big hit. He's not happy with himself after the mistake he made today. He's dropped down to 62 morale. And Zomba Reith is solidly 79, which is quite good. He's quite happy at the moment. He's had a solid result today, 13th place, albeit a lap down. The team finances looking pretty good. We're up to 233,000 now. And the next race is Streamline's Home Grand Prix. Last season they didn't do too well at the Home Grand Prix. Hopefully this time they can do a bit better. It's the British Grand Prix. That'll be on Tuesday. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. If you've enjoyed, make sure to like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter, actually. That's the big promotion today. Follow me on Twitter. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.